from institutional summer to ETF autumn. So, as anybody was paying attention, we saw that in July, the Genius Act was passed, and that basically meant that every base cryptocurrency project, any blockchain that had anything to do with stable tokens, stable coins, now had a seat at the table. What did we see? We saw Ethereum pump like crazy. July, August, and went from like lows of like expectations, obviously in May, lows of $1,500 per token in May, and then June consolidation. But July, the Genius Act was finally passed. Crypto week, amazing. So we saw that institutions could finally play in the sandbox in the sense that they could talk about basically creating their own stable tokens and using existing stable tokens as well. This is something that obviously was good for international trade as well. Just to give you guys a quick side story, in places like Dominican Republic, where my family's from, we're seeing things like prices being put in US dollars, and people are like, why? And it's because people just feel more comfortable with the US dollar, and banks know this as well. You go to Nigeria, deflationary currency, the peso in my parents' country, Dominican Republic, you see all over Latin America, Argentina, the same thing. Everybody prefers US dollars for purchasing and for saving money. So this makes it a lot easier. And now that banks can play in the sandbox, banks can establish their own stable tokens based on the US dollar. As we've said before, the same thing goes with the European Union. Most Europeans prefer the US dollar to the euro. Even though the euro fluctuates and sometimes it's weaker against the dollar or stronger against the dollar, the US is seen as the world reserve currency in the sense that all banks around the world have to hold the world reserve currency, the US dollar. So it makes it a lot simpler, and it helps with treasury bills too. A lot of these companies, in order to pair one-to-one to the US dollar, they either have to actually hold US dollars or gold. So it takes pressure off the US dollar, as President Trump said. So that was the institutions getting in. But we have something else that's very, very interesting. The ETFs. And I'm making this video today, even though I talk about ETFs all the time, is because tomorrow, although it's not a spot ETF, we do have Dogecoin ETFs being listed on the NASDAQ, I believe. Eric Balchunas has confirmed that they will be listed on the NASDAQ. And again, it's not a spot ETF, but it's the first time that a meme coin in the United States is listed on the stock market. We did have Shiba Inu listed in Sweden, I believe, but the best equity markets in the world are here in the US. I tell people all the time. I was on a space last night and I told people, listen, even Alibaba, for example, when they listed in Hong Kong and in Shanghai, it wasn't as big as when they listed in the US. Jack Ma became one of the wealthiest men at that time in the world, and actually in China, because of the equity markets in the US being so robust when they listed here. So, moving from institutions, adapting to the Genius Act, now we're going towards clarity. And clarity will be passed either at the end of September or end of October. All of the CFTC and everybody, the SEC, they're getting ready. I believe Paul Atkins said yesterday that it is, quote, it is crypto's time now, unquote, something of the sort. And ETFs. Now we're going into the ETFs. So Dogecoin ETFs, right? Autumn is ETF season, in my opinion. I believe that out of the 92 ETFs that we're looking at, I think that the majority of them are either to be slated for October. And remember that actual autumn ends in December 22nd or something of the sort. We're still in summer right now, right? But it's getting to autumn. By the time it's autumn, so it ends at September 22nd-ish. I believe that 30 days from today, October 10th, we're going to have the deadline for the Solana ETFs. After that, we're going to have also deadline for XRP ETFs. I think it's around the 12th. I'm not exactly sure of the date. You guys can quote me on this. But we have to understand that we already have ETFs for all of these projects, Solana, XRP, etc. But this is the first time that we're going to see spot ETFs for both these projects. So that's for October. And then later in November, even though I think it's very unlikely, because I think you have to have futures, you have to have a futures contract at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. But hey, the SEC is changing the rules. We're kind of feeling this out how it goes. So they might say, hey, listen, we can launch spot ETFs for, I think it's Hedera and Litecoin are next up in October, November, that time frame as well. But it just looks like we're going from institutional summer to the ETF autumn. I'm just excited about what's going to be winter. What's going to be like just bull run forever winter. And RIP to Charlie Kirk, he died today. I wasn't a huge Turning Point fan, but nobody deserves to die that way. Respectfully, he had a great life, wrote lots of books. Most people don't even get to do a tenth of what he did before he passed. But with that being said, I just want to make a short video to remind everybody, stay strong. We are on the right path. These corrections, while this sideways movement is normal in September, actually, it's good that it's not Rectember. Consolidation Temper is way better. It's only the 10th, so we still have 20 days left. And remember, next week, we'll talk more about this, but next week we also have the rate cuts. I want to mention that like every day. It just gets me excited. Because honestly, I've been calling for double rate cuts, and people are still saying 25, 25, I'm like 50, 50. I should be an oracle for calling 50. With that being said, let you guys go for the day. I gotta catch up on a lot of work and research for y'all. Upwards and onwards. Let's get it.